Their new computer chip has gained access to parallel universes.
Yes, hi. I have things I'd like to discuss, okay? Before I dive into this, I'd like to say that I do not have any professional qualifications. My qualifications are that I took philosophy classes in college and mathematics classes in college that focused on multiverses or multiple timelines and probability. That's the foundation of my knowledge. And then I studied quantum physics as just for fun. Okay, not even regularly. I just like to read on things or read on new discoveries and things like that. So no real qualifications. If you know more than me, please stick around. And let me know your thoughts, but also if you're just interested in this, please stick around. The first thing I'd like to point out is that a multiverse does not mean necessarily parallel universes. And a parallel universe does mean multiverse. So a parallel universe is a type of multiverse. Multiverse just means there are multiple universes out there, multiple timelines, multiple dimensions, things like that. In my opinion, a parallel universe could be probable. And Google's fancy computer chip says that it is probable. What this means is that if you have two universes, one that starts off on one frequency and another that starts off on another frequency. So like, say that this is our universe. Our universe is probably very unlikely to be the number one in the universes, but let's just go there. So if you have that we started off on this frequency, that means that a parallel universe would start off on a parallel frequency. So like, say that we're on a XYZ chart. If we started off on 1A, then a parallel universe would start off on 2A. And I know it's backwards, but as we began to level up in frequency, whereas time began to pass because certain declassified CIA documents have shown that time also has a frequency. So the Earth has a frequency and time has a frequency. History has a frequency. So say that throughout time we begin to level up and say that we go to a 1B frequency. That means that parallel universe would run next to us, so to speak, and also be a 2B frequency. Okay, are you following me? When certain people or most people think about a multiverse, they usually actually don't think about parallel universes. They think more about like quantum immortality or quantum unalive theory. Yeah. So whenever you talk about these, you're looking more so that we have an effect on the different universes that could come out. So it wouldn't be as black and white or straightforward as a parallel universe where we start off on 1A, they start off on 2A, and so on and so forth. We actually end up in kind of a big cluster F of a network of universes where each one is impacting each other, and even like where they split apart, some of them might even be able to merge back at some point, where if complementary decisions keep being made, they could end up leading to the same universe or same decisions. I have issues with that one, so I'm going to explain. In that one, in the one where it's the multiverse, where every single decision that we make comes up to a fork in the road and it splits off and we end up splitting apart and ending up in two different universes, there are some problems with that end up becoming a paradox. I don't know what the paradox is called. I don't know if anybody else has ever covered it, but I'm going to right now. So if you know more than me, please, again, let me know your thoughts. But say that we lived in an infinite of universes, like infinity, like it goes on forever. Every decision we make branches off into a new universe, and then every single decision that those universes make branch off into another universe. We end up coming to a point where if every single thing is possible, every possibility happens, then we end up coming to a universe where then the possibility would be that there's no other universes. There are no parallel universes, there are no timeline branches, there's nothing like that. And you can't have those two things exist at the same time. You can't have everything is possible, but also nothing is possible. You can't have that there's infinite other universes and there are no other universes at the same time. That just doesn't work. Unless they are different types of universes. Let me explain. When we start talking about dimensions like the 3D, 4D, 5D, a lot of people get carried away. I might touch on it, but we'll see. We'll see how much time I take doing this. We live in a 3D reality, okay? And because of that 3D reality, we experience up, down, side to side, front and back, right? And we can go in all of these different directions, and we've kind of mastered these different directions. Even we've taken them to certain extremes, like drilling extremely deep holes into the earth and also flying up into the outer space and things like that, right? So whenever you start to add dimensions, so you add like a fourth dimension, we're actually four-dimensional beings because we experience something outside of our dimension. We experience time. We experience time, though, on a 3D concept, a linear concept, because we are in a 3D reality. So we are experiencing time reflected on us, grounded in the 3D, right? We actually experience something else too, which is 5D. So the 4D, a lot of people say 4D is time. And I just said it too. But that's not technically right. The 4D contains time. Time is another direction within the 4D. A lot of people will say, okay, so the directions of the 4D would be in and out. So we can go inward and we can go outward. Cool. All right, so you would be basically folding inward in time and outward on time, which kind of relates back to time travel, right? So then if the 4D is just a solidified time that we would have control over and we can move forward, backward, side to side, and we were unaffected by it, right? Because we're not affected by up, down, side to side, to left to right. We're not affected by that. We experience it whenever we control it. We get to move in it. The time is not something that we have control over because we're in a 3D reality, but in a 4D reality, we would, okay? So then take it a step further, then what is 5D time? And so there's a lot of debate on this, and a lot of people are always like, return to the 5D, like spiritual people are. 5D, I mean, yeah, could be consciousness, okay? I don't know. Like I said, my qualifications are not the best. But 5D time, or 5D time. Now, this is just my opinion, okay? Jesus. But if the 4D is where time is held, and where if we were in a 4D reality, we would then have a control over time. We would be able to move across time in those directions of inward and outward, just like we can move left to right, up and down, side to side here, okay? Are you following me? I hope you are. 5D, in my opinion, is possibility. And it's not only possibility, but it's where other possibilities, other timelines could be held. So instead of them being grounded in the 3D, they would actually be grounded in the 5D. Okay, all right. So now I'm going to get modern day spiritual with you for a second. So when you hear people talk about like timeline jumping, timeline shifting, moving across timelines, or like leveling up, or like ascending and things like that, what they're actually talking about is an experience, in my opinion, an experience of imprinting the 5D, like something else from the 5D, and stamping that into our 3D reality. They have to bring that across time, though. They have to bring that across the 4D. It can't just jump, or maybe it can. Again, I don't know what the 5D is. Okay, if you're with me here, now I'm getting to my point. If we really do have parallel universes, which Google's chip says that it's possible, Google says it's possible, the employees at Google are a lot smarter than me, okay? They have a lot more qualifications than I do. But if we really do have parallel timelines, there's a very, very, very good chance that you're not in another timeline. There's a very high possibility, because these parallel timelines would have to be grounded in a parallel frequency, which means they would have to be grounded in a 3D frequency, okay? And the 3D is what we can physically see. It's what we can physically touch. It's what is around us. It is what we are experiencing when we walk into a wall or when we touch something solid, even though the particles on a very, very, like, minute level actually aren't solid. They're just vibrating around really fast, and it's our particles touching something else. All that to say, every parallel universe there is, if it is parallel to ours, would have to be grounded in a 3D reality, okay? That means that because of the laws of the 3D world, there could not be infinite realities. There would have to be somewhere that the paradox would kick in, where basically we would not have infinite realities, because that means that infinite possibilities would lead to one reality, meaning there's no other possibilities. So then all of those would just cancel back out, and then we'd be all alone, because we're experiencing reality, so then it would be us, right? So when you're thinking about infinite possibilities, infinite realities, you're thinking about quantum immortality, quantum unaliving theory, things like that, which would have to be, in my opinion, grounded into a 5D realm. Not in our 3D realm, not even in the 4D, because that is experiencing time, having control on time directionally, not linearly, okay? They would have to be in the 5D. So I just wanted us to have this discussion, because I have predictions, I have theories, and also wanted you to be prepared. If I'm right, then when we start talking about these parallel universes and things come out, chances are there's not another you. Chances are there's not another me. Chances are that universe started from scratch the same way ours did. Just wanted you to keep that in mind. I'd love to hear your thoughts, love to hear your opinions. I don't talk about this a whole lot because I don't have qualifications, and a lot of people would look at me like I'm crazy, but I'd love your opinion. Please let me know what you think.